In the midst of a severe economic crisis, where access to essential goods remains a struggle, Russia has made a game-changing move, one that Washington never saw coming. President Vladimir Putin has stepped in, effectively breaking the economic blockade on Cuba by supplying the island with critical exports. For years, Cuban markets have faced extreme shortages, with basic necessities like dairy and meat becoming luxuries for the people. However, the arrival of Russian goods marks a turning point. Supermarket shelves, once empty, are now being restocked, bringing immediate relief to millions who have endured years of economic hardship. But this is more than just a trade deal. It's a bold act of international defiance, a direct response to the US-imposed economic restrictions that have crippled Cuba's growth for decades. By forging a stronger economic alliance with Russia, Havana is proving that alternative paths to survival exist, even in the face of intense geopolitical pressure. Breaking barriers, defying sanctions. One of the key developments in this shift was Cuba's approval of Russia's sanitary control system, a crucial step that now allows Russian companies to export food and essential goods without the bureaucratic red tape that once blocked such transactions. What once seemed like an insurmountable barrier has now become a lifeline for the Cuban economy. This partnership extends beyond simple trade. It is a symbol of resilience. It highlights what smaller nations can achieve when they unite in the face of economic adversity. Cuba's strengthening ties with Russia demonstrate a way forward for other Caribbean and Latin American nations seeking to bypass Western-imposed sanctions. A new economic strategy for Cuba is not stopping at Russia. The Cuban government has also intensified its efforts to diversify its trade partnerships, ensuring a more stable and independent supply of essential goods. This shift is a direct response to the 2021 protests, when thousands of frustrated citizens took to the streets demanding economic relief. Since then, Havana has prioritized securing food, medicine, and basic products, no longer solely relying on Western-controlled markets. Thanks to strategic trade agreements, Cuba is now in a stronger position to reduce its dependency on the US and other Western nations. With Russia as a key partner, the island is not only ensuring survival, but also challenging the global economic system that has long marginalized smaller nations. This is more than just trade. It's a statement that Cuba refuses to be isolated, that international cooperation can rewrite the rules of economic survival, and that despite decades of sanctions, there is always another way forward. Cuba's recent entry into the BRICS bloc as an associate member represents a significant milestone in its economic and geopolitical strategy. This move not only strengthens Cuba's global standing, but also creates vast opportunities for economic growth, trade, and financial stability. By joining this influential coalition, which includes powerhouse economies like China, Brazil, South Africa, and Russia, Cuba is positioning itself within a network of support that could help counterbalance the long-standing effects of the US embargo. For decades, Cuba has faced economic restrictions imposed by Western financial institutions, limiting its access to international markets, trade partnerships, and investment opportunities. However, with BRICS membership, the island nation now has the potential to break free from these constraints and build a more sustainable and self-sufficient economic future. Access to new markets and financial support, one of the most immediate benefits of joining BRICS, is Cuba's access to new markets. The economic strength of BRICS nations provides a vast platform for Cuba to diversify its exports and reduce its dependence on a limited number of trading partners. This diversification is critical in ensuring economic resilience, as Cuba has long been vulnerable to shifts in the global economy due to its restricted access to major financial systems. Moreover, BRICS offers access to financing and investments that can be channeled into critical sectors such as infrastructure, healthcare, and industry. Historically, Cuba has struggled with securing foreign investment due to international sanctions. However, within BRICS, Cuba has the opportunity to benefit from alternative financial institutions like the New Development Bank, NDB, which aims to support emerging economies without the stringent conditions imposed by Western banks and the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Investment in Cuba's infrastructure, such as roads, energy grids, and telecommunications, has been a crucial limitation to its development. With support from BRICS, the nation can undertake much-needed modernization projects, improving its domestic capabilities and enhancing its competitiveness in global trade. Reducing dependence on the US dollar. Another major advantage of BRICS membership is Cuba's ability to reduce its dependence on the US dollar. The global economy has been shifting toward de-dollarization, with BRICS nations leading efforts to conduct trade in local currencies, rather than relying on the dollar-dominated system. For Cuba, which has suffered under decades of economic sanctions restricting access to dollar-based financial transactions, this shift presents an opportunity for greater economic autonomy. Conducting trade in currencies such as the Chinese yuan, Russian ruble, or even a potential BRICS common currency would provide Cuba with much-needed flexibility in its international dealings at a time when global economic tensions are rising and countries are seeking alternatives to traditional Western-dominated financial structures. Cuba's alignment with BRICS strengthens its position in the evolving multipolar world, enhanced trade and economic stability. Strengthening ties with BRICS nations allows Cuba to negotiate trade agreements under more favorable conditions. Previously, Cuba's economic partnerships were often dictated by political restrictions, limiting its ability to expand its trade network. Now, with access to BRICS markets, Cuba can export its products, such as sugar, pharmaceuticals, and biotechnology, to a broader range of consumers. Additionally, Cuba can benefit from technology and industrial collaboration, particularly in sectors like renewable energy, medical research, and digital infrastructure. Countries like China and India have advanced expertise in these areas, and Cuba's cooperation with them can lead to the transfer of knowledge and technology that can accelerate its domestic economic development. Beyond economic advantages, joining BRICS also reinforces Cuba's geopolitical stance. It provides the nation with a stronger position when negotiating on the global stage, allowing it to advocate for fairer trade practices and resist the pressures imposed by larger economic powers. Transforming the lives of Cubans. While these macroeconomic changes are crucial, what matters most is how they translate into the daily lives of the Cuban people. For decades, Cuba has faced chronic shortages of essential goods, ranging from food and medicine to industrial supplies, due to trade restrictions and supply chain difficulties. Through agreements with BRICS nations, a more stable and consistent flow of essential products is expected. Countries like Russia, China, and Brazil can serve as reliable suppliers, ensuring that Cuba has access to the goods it needs without the constraints imposed by international embargoes. This means that Cubans could see an improvement in their quality of life, with better access to healthcare supplies, food security, and industrial resources to support domestic manufacturing. By reducing dependence on Western trade routes, Cuba can secure a more sustainable and predictable supply chain. A political and economic shift. Cuba's integration into BRICS is not just an economic decision, it is a strategic political move that signals a shift in global alliances. For decades, the global economic order has been dominated by Western financial institutions and trade networks that often impose restrictive policies on emerging nations. By aligning with BRICS, Cuba is actively participating in the creation of an alternative economic system, one that prioritizes cooperation among developing nations rather than dependency on Western powers. This move also serves as an inspiration for other Latin American countries that have faced similar economic and political pressures. By demonstrating that alternatives exist outside of traditional Western-led financial systems, Cuba is paving the way for a more balanced global economy. A model for Latin America and the Global South, the Cuba-BRICS alliance serves as a model for other countries in Latin America and the Global South that seek greater economic independence. Many nations in the region have long struggled with economic instability due to reliance on Western financial institutions that often impose strict economic policies in exchange for aid or investment. By turning to BRICS, Cuba is showcasing an alternative pathway, one that emphasizes mutual collaboration, economic diversification, and political sovereignty. This shift could encourage other Latin American nations to explore similar partnerships, ultimately fostering stronger regional integration and economic resilience. A new era of global cooperation beyond the economic and political benefits for Cuba itself. The broader implications of this alliance highlight the growing importance of international cooperation. In an era of global crises,